The Spot Track Podcast, talking sports contracts, the salary cap, and business of sports.
Welcome to the Spot Track Podcast. I'm Kevin Sylvester along with Paul Peck, Mike Giannetti. We are brought to you by Morgan Stanley Global Sports and Entertainment, which of course empowers professional athletes and entertainers with everything they need to know to make good decisions about their finances and wealth. Learn more by visiting morganstanley.com/GSE. Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, LLC, member SIPC. Gentlemen, good to see you again.
Yeah. Welcome back, Kevin.
By the way, I've got a prospective client for Morgan Stanley. I don't know if you guys saw this article about Christian Wilkins, you know, that monster
defensive tackle, right?
Out of Clemson. The headline was basically, he's the most frugal man in sports, and it was just a biopic about how this guy has been pinching pennies his whole life, including through Clemson, right? Like he would save his stipend, and he had 4 bank accounts set up in college, and he had, like, it was literally for, you know, what parents and adults should be doing. You know, it was food, savings, and it was all this crazy stories about how he would hitch rides, and he'd have like money set aside to be able to pay gas to his friends, and he had tabs running and all this stuff, and he would steal from the cafeteria, and all these incredible stories about how he pinched pennies and how he's going to translate that to his NFL salary. And, you know, he's reluctant, he said, to get financial advisement because he's been doing this so well. But he said now that the numbers are in the millions, he goes, it's a lot harder. You know, what do I need, 12 bank accounts, you know?
Right.
That's exactly what these companies would. I mean, that's like the dream client for that company, right? Basically saying, you know what you need. Here, we'll just do it for you.
Well, no, that's exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's exactly right. Like, okay, I've known how to handle hundreds, thousands of dollars
off now.
But look, there are more zeros there, but there are more things you should do with the money. It's not just like, what could I do, but what should you do to preserve it?
More challenges about how to handle taxes and avoid paying any more than you have to pay. So yeah, but we hear so many stories about the guys who blow their money. It's cool to hear about a guy who you sound like is going to be far from doing that.
That's right.
Well, the other thing is, at that income level, you become an accredited investor.
That's
right.
True.
And so there are different opportunities to accredited investors than there are to just the you know Joe Blow on the street investor. Right. Whether you got to earn a certain amount a year or have a net worth of a certain amount.
Plus, you want to make some money.
Well, you want to put your money to work.
Right,
yeah, that's what these guys do.
You want to keep making it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, yeah, call Morgan Stanley. Yeah. By the way, what's the most frugal thing you did while in college, Paul? Like, to be cheap and save money?
$6 cases of Peel's beer when we all wanted to drink on a Saturday night.
$6.
$6.
We paid $4.50 for a case of, we called it Jebel, the French Canadian, Gobel. Goebel. And if you looked at the bottom of the bottle, each bottle's a different thickness.
That's not good.
No, it was not good. And neither was the beer, my friend. And we would, we would find out which girls on campus had extra money on their dining plans, and someone would take one for the team so we could get food.
I like it.
Wow.
Yeah. There you go.
That is the ultimate family style.
Yeah, exactly right. Hey, how much money do you have on your meal plan? What are you doing tomorrow night?
Oh, man. I miss meal plans. Those are the days.
All right. Well, hey, listen, you got to do what you got to do to make it through college. Okay.
Speaking of college, right?
Speaking of colleges, there are some guys who they probably didn't live as frugally through college as perhaps they need to. Some barely even went to college, even for a year, right?
Yeah.
And that's probably going to be the lottery pick in the draft. But the NBA draft lottery is tonight when we record this, and we're going to talk about some coaches. Let's first talk about the lottery.
Yeah, much anticipated.
I mean, it's
first highest since LeBron, you think? Most anticipated lottery since LeBron?
I think that's safe to say because the guy that's leading the charge here in Zion Williamson is probably the most talked about college player or player entering the draft probably since LeBron, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I mean, he is going to be franchise changing, we think. Right? He's going to sell a ton of jerseys and sneakers right away.
Boy, the sneaker deal could be more important than the NBA team. I mean, everybody's going to be vying for this guy.
Yeah.
Everybody.
How much money is he going to make as a lottery pick? If you're number one overall.
From basketball.
From playing basketball, the amount of money that's guaranteed. Because we know with football players, What is it for the NBA?
So for the next 4 years, it'll be about $44 million for that number one overall pick. Incredible value, $11 million a year, which actually is pretty high if you think about the other sports. $11 million
compared
a
to
year.
the other sports, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's a nice starting contract for any player, obviously, but he's going to double that in sneakers.
NFL top 10 picks are about $8 million a year. Top 5 guys are
35 over 4.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so that's a number one pick, and that's going to be Zion. I mean, there's nobody not picking
there's
Zion,
no doubt.
right?
No
Can't
doubt.
imagine.
Fifth pick.
Let me tell you one team. Let me stop.
yeah.
Let me
Yeah,
stop.
yeah.
Because we mentioned this before the show. What if New Orleans wins?
Oh.
Is there a chance that Jay Morant is number one?
I can't imagine that they would do that. He's not hey, there's two prongs to this. I think there's some serious questions by NBA people exactly who Zion Williamson is going to be in the NBA. We can talk about that in a moment too, but I think just generally he's the guy. So how do you not take him even if you feel like Morant might fit your team a little better
and the game, right?
Yeah, and the league and maybe that's the same point we're talking about here. All right, well, so let's go on that. I know you guys disagree with me a little bit. I've read enough stories from NBA scouts and personnel people who have said that Zion Williamson's going to have to make some serious changes to his game to be successful in the NBA. And I think on first glance, he doesn't look, quote unquote, like an NBA player of today. Not a great shooter. He's a physical bull, run over people. I'm not saying he can't score and he can't be successful in the NBA, but until he becomes a better shooter, is he going to be an upper echelon top 10, 15 guy?
He is Karl Malone. He's with Michael Jordan's leaping ability.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Right? I like the Karl Malone comparison.
This guy is a tank, and he passes like Larry Bird.
Yeah, but you just mentioned three guys from the 90s.
Right. I've actually got a comparison.
Three of the greatest of all time.
I know, but
who could still play
it's
today.
Such a different game today.
I've got modern comparisons, and I think it's which way is he going to go? Right? Is he going to develop into a shooter? He can shoot it too, and he has shot the three. I mean, he can do it. Can he develop it? And if he does, he's probably trending toward LeBron, right? I would think he's trending. I mean, he's got the physical ability to get to the rim whenever he wants.
That's
LeBron.
correct.
And the athletic
That's
ability
LeBron.
with the size.
He loves the rebound. He loves the pass. That's LeBron. So he's got a chance. That is his, swinging left ceiling. To me, the right is Blake Griffin. Because Blake Griffin was this conversation.
Yes.
He was this physical specimen coming out of Oklahoma.
Dominant college player.
Crazy dunker. Right? I mean, he was a rebound machine. That to me is the bad side of this. Because Blake Griffin became too one-dimensional. And that's why LA had to ship him out. That's why he's a fine player. He's certainly, still an all-pro player, but he's not a generational player. He's not worthy of that number one overall, and that's where we're going to be with Zion. I think it's between those spectrums. I tend to put him more towards LeBron.
Does he change and elevate his game? Does he add the shooting element to it, or is he so good that it won't matter? That's what I think we're really intrigued about. And again, he was clearly the most dominant player in college basketball by far, but that doesn't always translate into being the dominant player in the NBA, where everybody is equally as good as anybody you faced in the ACC.
He's not going to come in and make a franchise a championship contender
by himself.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There'll be some of those expectations,
but it's a pretty good year to be coming in because of these free agents, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's so much fun.
I mean, the team that if the Knicks land, I just want to say this: when Antetokounmpo was taken by the Bucks,
nicely done, by the way.
Thank you. Nobody really knew about him, right? And raw player that could go to the rim. The guy now dunks with either hand. He can shoot threes now. He's developed his game.
We're going to
happen
get there,
Zion.
Kevin, because the playoffs and how they're rounding into form are really interesting. We're going to get to Giannis for sure.
But if the Knicks get Zion Williamson, Kevin Durant is a Knick all the way,
is
right?
He?
Yes,
sure. Wait, isn't the point of Durant?
He might be a Knick already, by the way.
Isn't the point of Durant leaving to have his own team? Isn't he pulling a Kyrie Irving here? Like, I want to be back on my own. I mean, he's never had it, right? It was Westbrook's team. It was Steph Curry's team. He wants to go and show that he can dominate on his own. And if Zion is in the picture, it's Zion's team.
If he's learned anything, if he's smart and has looked around and learned anything, he looks at LeBron James in LA and should realize, like,
Yeah.
I need somebody with me. I can't go do this by myself.
Elephant in the room, LeBron is right now, right?
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Is he ever?
Even the greatest can't do it alone.
Which room is he going to be in? I think it's pretty interesting, too.
All right, let's talk.
How about Zion, by the way? One
Zion.
last point.
Yeah,
One last
sure.
point. So if he makes $100 million from sneakers, from whoever,
That's got to be the starting point, right?
$100 million, and he gets 44 from his contract. He walks out of Duke, and he is immediately being handed $150 million.
Right.
Yeah, that's not a bad day.
Not a bad day at all.
That's not a bad day.
Which is probably, the chancellors at Duke have to hate it. I mean, Duke is one of the it's prestigious university. I mean, they don't let many dummies into Duke.
Okay.
Right? I mean, I've known some people go to Duke, and they're some of the smartest people I know. Right? It's a hard school to get in. I mean, if you got 1180 on your SAT, you're not getting into Duke. Okay. Unless you can dunk.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
If you average 11.8 points per game, you're a little better chance.
It just, you go to college for 1 year and you get 144.
I actually had this exact thought, and I did some homework on it because I was kind of ready for this conversation. ACC team. I mean, ACC is the breadwinner right now at conference in basketball, right? It's kind of where all the everybody had 2 or 3 teams in their brackets in the Final Four, right? I mean, that was it. The conversation this year was ACC. In terms of college basketball. Top 100 NBA players right now, salary-wise. Top 100 paid players. Where's the first ACC kid?
And the top 100 of currently paid NBA
Highest paid players in NBA. Where's the first ACC
we're talking about a Duke or North Carolina guy likely? Boy, that's a great question.
Wait.
Notice how you're having trouble?
Yeah, I am having trouble.
Shouldn't have to have trouble.
It's because Duke and North Carolina players are not succeeding in the NBA right now. I'm going to give you the answer because there's not a
It's Kyrie Irving.
chance. There's not a chance. It's not Kyrie Irving. There's not a chance. There's not a chance you'll get this. It's Harrison Barnes from North Carolina forever ago. 27th on the list right now.
Wow.
What are we doing here? What are we doing here? These ACC kids get there and it's nothing?
Well, I know one of the storylines that's emerged in the Final Four is the key players are all from a lot of small schools.
There you go. Here's your top
Kawhi
5,
Leonard,
right?
San Diego State, Lillard from Weber State, right? Weber State.
Davidson, Steph Curry.
Davidson,
Steph Curry,
sure.
right.
And then Westbrook's UCLA. I mean, Kyle Lowry, Toronto, Villanova. I mean,
Yeah.
CJ McCollum is Lehigh.
Right. Well, that's
These
unbelievable.
kids we're watching.
Right.
Yeah, Antetokounmpo from Greece.
Yeah.
Not even anywhere.
But again, to Mike's point, the big schools are don't. There's no guarantee, and there's no correlation necessarily with the best players coming from the biggest schools, which goes against the narrative that we all sort of live on a daily basis that everybody in the NBA is from Kentucky or Duke.
It's just public relations, right?
Yeah.
You got to go to the ACC because it's the most visible conference.
Right.
Right?
It is
and I
great.
get it.
Yeah.
And I get it. Now they're having their own network, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's going to be
this
big.
fall,
It's
yep.
going to be huge. But it's just funny how that isn't translated right now to the current crop of NBA players. It's just, they're from everywhere.
We did have a coach leave college just yesterday for the NBA. Kind of a shocker. We're in Buffalo. We're based in Buffalo. For those who don't know, I think you know by now if you're a regular listener. And John Beeline is from this area. He coached in high school, went from a JV basketball coach in high school to junior college. He coached junior college, then to
Division II.
to Division II, then Division III at Canisius, and then exploded from there with some stops along the way. But at Michigan, he leaves Michigan.
Yeah.
He's 66. His son was just named coach at Niagara.
Right,
I don't know if that had anything to do with it, with him jumping to the NBA. But
He's been dabbling with the NBA for a couple of years now, so I don't think so.
He put the whole foot in going to Cleveland with the Cavaliers here prior to the draft lottery, which is also interesting.
That's the conversation here, right? First of all, I think it's funny that Cleveland has attempted to get Izzo out of Michigan State. And now
their owner's a Michigan guy.
Now they settled for Michigan.
Yeah, he's a Detroit guy, so it's sort of he sees it and watches it and is familiar with it, and I think there's a lot to that. I think the interesting thing, and you'll talk about the money here in a second. I think the interesting thing about this move, some people have speculated that this is a little bit of college basketball is a mess right now. John Beeline has always had a reputation as being completely above board. There's been I saw a quote the other day from an unnamed college coach or administrator or whatever who says he's the cleanest guy in the country and has always been that way. I wonder if he looks at college basketball's disaster of a mess right now and says, I'm done here. I can't play the game. I can't be successful playing the game the way I've played it, being honest, when everybody else around me is cheating. It's like the steroids baseball thing from the 90s.
Well, I think I don't know about the cheating part, but I think he's looked at his recent teams and said, I had it, my chance is done.
Yeah.
Right? I can't.
He's also lost a lot of players early.
Yes. I can't win with I couldn't win with all the ex-NBA players' kids on my team.
Yeah.
Right? And so if I'm going to go to the NBA, now's the time. Right? I mean, it's
He's
now
also
or never.
66 years old.
That's what
This
I mean.
is his last swing at the fences for the
Sure.
last 5 years of his contract. Again, he's been a guy, as you rattled off his bio, he's been a guy that's always liked to continue to challenge himself up the ladder. So I don't know why anybody would be surprised at a move like this. Again, he's dabbled with Orlando and Detroit the last couple of years, so clearly he waited for the situation that felt the best and the rightest for him.
Oh, and by the way, they probably double his salary. Right?
That too.
Right.
For
Sure,
5
right.
years.
Of course.
So, yeah.
He was making what? What was he making in
3.5.
Michigan?
About
Right?
3.5 at Michigan, but he gets 5 years guaranteed. And the lifespan of an NBA coach right now is 2.5 years.
Wow.
That's the lifespan
Okay.
over the past 10, 15 years.
And if you're LeBron's coach, it's 1.5
so if you're making, or six games. Remember Ty Lue? Right, you're done in 6 games. Ridiculous. But
They interviewed him,
but
by
they're
the way,
gonna
in
hire
LA.
him back. Yeah. I'm not even going to get there, but
He said no.
yeah, but the turnover is unbelievable. I mean, is half the league paying an old coach right now? I wish I had those numbers. But
Easy
I
to
bet
get rid
half
of.
the league is paying their old coach still right
Sure,
now.
right.
bet.
I mean,
crazy.
it's easy to get rid of, and to me, the NBA is becoming like the NHL,
Yeah.
right? Coaching wise.
You don't know who any of them are, and they're almost irrelevant.
Quick question on that.
There you go.
Which league does the coach matter more? Because I know you've dabbled in both.
I will say the coach matters more in hockey.
Really?
Yeah.
I would not have thought you went that. You'd go
Yeah,
there.
I'd say it matters more in hockey.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it because basketball has become so iso ball now?
That's correct.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
look,
more players to manage, I think, too, more egos and more personalities to manage. I mean, let's be honest. The NBA has how many on a roster? 15?
12, 15, yeah.
7 of them play. 7 of them play.
Not
3
in
of
Golden
them
State.
matter.
5 play in Golden
Right.
State.
I'll say 3 of them matter. 7 of them play. The rest of the guys are just the guys who are in the picture watching Kawhi Leonard shot bounce around.
That was pretty awesome,
that's-
though. We'll get there, too.
a pretty fair assessment.
Yeah, that's good stuff. All right.
I'm just saying. I think the NHL coach matters more. But again, I think just because you have more players that factor
more
into
structured offense, defense. There's a lot more to handle. I mean, basketball, there's a lot of X's and O's, but I think those get thrown out of the window a lot, too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure. Listen, I'm going to say it. I'm pretty sure I could coach an NBA game.
Ooh.
I could coach a game.
Listen to this guy.
I could coach it.
to this
Listen,
guy.
I could coach a game. I'm not saying a team for a season. I'm just saying you could plug me on the bench of a game, and I'd have a pretty good handle on what needs to happen.
Paul, you want to reach
I could
out
drop.
to John Beeline here for us?
I could listen. I could call timeouts, right when I feel momentum going.
All right.
I could call a play, get the ball to Kawhi. Right,
We know you could yell at the officials.
We're gonna run Kawhi off of a
Yeah,
pick.
what do you think the whiteboards in Toronto look like? Right, it's just big number 2.
Yeah.
That's
We're
it.
gonna
Just a number 2.
sideline inbounds pass here. We're gonna
Wherever
run.
Kawhi goes,
You're gonna run a V pattern, come off the screen, get the ball, and then do what you need to do with it.
certainly
right?
worked.
It
All right,
worked.
let me put a bow on this NBA lottery situation because I ran some numbers on the current players just to see the impact of these top draft picks.
I can look pissed with the rest of them. That's all I'm saying.
Or not care. Some look don't care.
Not care. I don't have to wear a tie anymore. Anyhow, Go
Ready?
ahead. I'm sorry.
Top 100 NBA salaries. We'll go back to that list. 82 of them are first round picks. 82. And of those 82, 40% of those picks were top 5.
Sure. Well, they only have 2 rounds.
Right, but I mean, top 5 picks. Yeah, I mean, you're going to get your bus.
Correct.
Right? I mean, you're going to have your bus. 5 of those top 100 were undrafted. I thought that'd be more. Because there's only 2 rounds, I mean, you'd think they'd find some diamonds out there.
But they still have to draft the international players. So
True.
that's why, it's less
right.
than.
Well, but even
less
more
than
so. I mean, there's no kids that come out of college undrafted and
I think
sell up the boards
they
anymore?
know. I think the scouting is a lot easier and the projections are a lot easier. You know who can play in the NBA and who can. I think there's a lot less gray area than any other draft about a good scout can know whether that guy is an NBA player or not.
Sure. And it's such a stars-driven league. It's incredible. I mean, if we talk about these playoffs here, it's just
let's talk about the playoffs here in a second. I do want to mention real quick Dynasty Owner before we get into the playoffs here, because we want to make sure you get in and get your opportunity on being a member of Dynasty Owner. It's the first Dynasty salary cap fantasy sports game where not only plays the game week to week, but you use actual contracts, actual salaries. Gives you the roster power of both coach and general manager. So you're not just trading for players, you trade for Dynasty dollars, which is a virtual currency used in the game. You can rack those up each week, whether you win or lose your matchup, and build your Dynasty long-term year to year. Your bench even gives you a percentage of their performance that week, so don't worry about, do I start this guy, that guy? Your bench will earn you some points that week. It even allows you to go over the salary cap, which some NBA teams have done, which we're going to talk about here. Yeah. You can go all in this year if you want. It's the first game to combine week-to-week fantasy sports gaming with long-term ownership and GM strategy. Own your fantasy sports team. Go to dynastyowner.com. Sign up for the 2019 beta draft. There's also a link there on spottrack.com. Okay, NBA Final Four. We had the Raptors get into the Final Four with that amazing shot from Kawhi Leonard. It was just awesome how I think they counted 5 times in slow-mo. It bounced down the rim. Yeah. That's just incredible.
It was crazy.
I looked away. I feel like I looked away after the big bounce because you're like, oh, that's not going in. You almost like you look away like, okay, it's going to be overtime, and you kind of like, whoa, wait a minute. It was amazing.
Well, the visual was great because he releases the ball, then you see the square, the backboard outline, so he got it off just in time, and then it hits the rim, and you could see the player, I think it was Ibaka, wanted to go up and tap it in. He knows he can't. Yeah. Right, because it's off, and they're just watching it, and it falls. It was a great series. Well, you know what? Actually, I'm going to retract that. I don't think it was a great series because the Sixers laid 2 complete eggs.
Sure.
Right? I mean, 2 of their losses. They look like I was coaching them in those 2 losses.
They announced they're bringing him back this morning, and I'm very surprised by that. They're bringing back the coach. I'm very surprised by that. To me, that was the deficiency of this team. Was the way they were coached.
You could argue that
they wanted to fire him, but they couldn't remember what his name was.
Speaking of Duke guys, by the way.
Well, by the way, some people saw the headlines. It says Brown staying as coach. They thought Hubie Brown still coaching the Sixers.
He's still working though.
Right. Yeah,
My God.
I think
Larry Brown, was the coach of the Sixers, not Hubie. Same deal though.
Not to get too far down the rabbit hole with Philly because they're out of it, but it just seems like there's going to be change coming.
Well, there has to be.
They might not. They might think they might pull a Boston here and say, we've got the personnel, we just got to figure out how to make it work. That didn't work for Boston. One of those players should be traded. One of those players should be, if it's Ben Simmons, fine. One of those players, there is a chemistry issue.
Sure.
And I wonder, because I've seen it with a lot of sports, I wonder if there's pressure from up top, from the GM, from the owners to say, we already got rid of one of our number 1 overalls in Fultz, right? We've already eaten crow on that. If we move Simmons, that means 2 out of these 3 number 1 overalls that we've gotten are out of town already. How does that make us look as an organization? You know what I mean? That's got to be there. It's got to be lingering. There's a pride issue with all of this. I just wonder if they're gonna stand pat because of that and because they think they can make it work. And I don't think they can. I think those players cannot play together right now.
You think which
Simmons and Embiid?
I was going to say Simmons and Embiid. I agree because they'd sit there and watch the other one just go right. If Embiid would take over, he's shooting, and then Simmons would just take.
It's crazy.
He'd be invisible. And if Simmons played, Embiid became invisible.
And the money's not there yet for Simmons, right? Embiid's worth money. I mean, they paid him. Injuries or not, he's paid.
Is this what we talked about with Zion? That Simmons' lack of an outside shot.
He's not a good shooter.
But Zion's not that bad. Zion will take his shots.
But I'm just saying, at this point in the NBA, if you don't have a really good outside shot, it's hard sometimes to maximize your potential and or fit into the rest of the offense.
I agree, and I think it was a bad pick. I'm going to say it. It was a bad pick for Philly. They needed shooters. They never acquired shooters. They didn't draft shooters anywhere in this.
Right? Well, Redick was their only shooter.
But there was a free agent signing.
Right.
They had all these high draft picks. They never got themselves a shooter. So I don't know where they thought the league was going, but it's not grinded out inside basketball anymore. That's for sure.
If you had to move one, to me, Simmons would be the guy. Yeah. Even though he can be dominant at times, he's got to be able to shoot off the dribble.
Yeah.
the step back three.
Fine.
Yeah, he's got to be able to do those things. And Embiid and Butler seem to have some chemistry.
How about Simmons and Lonzo Ball right now? Isn't it crazy?
Simmons is a better Lonzo Ball, but they're the same guy. Yeah,
it's crazy.
Right.
Like, can we stop bringing in people who can't shoot the ball? I mean, because those kids are everywhere. They're on these small teams in college and high school. We can find them. I promise. We can find them.
Yeah, every team's got
good
shooters.
Money.
Every team's got shooters.
It's crazy, yeah.
So the Final Four overall, it's an interesting selection, but it's not unexpected because they're the seeds that make the Final Four.
Yeah, are we worried about parity in the NBA? Because it's been pretty chalk for a couple of years now, right?
I would say yes, it has been, but I'm not worried about parity because look what you have. You have two teams in the Final Four this year that were not there last year, correct?
Right. But they were expected to be this year.
And actually, you have three, right? Toronto wasn't there. Right?
Toronto
was there.
Semis, second round, yeah.
Second round. They made it a step further,
yeah.
Because they lost to Cleveland last year, right? And Portland's made it a step further, and Milwaukee's made it a step further. So 3 of the 4 are in the Final Four that were not there last year.
Yeah, it's chalk with the seeds, just not chalk with the
teams.
teams.
I'm just saying. So to me, that's good for the NBA that, hey, we have 3 new teams out of the Final Four. So somebody out of the East is going to lose to Golden State this year.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, isn't it funny that you remove LeBron James from the equation and Toronto gets over the hump? Because that's been it for 3 years.
Right.
That's been it. That's funny. Huh. Speaking of LeBron James, I've got a quick little side note stat here for you. He's the only player in the top 20 of pay that didn't make the postseason this year. He's the only top 20 highest paid player to not make the postseason.
That's really incredible.
So that's a level of how bad his year was.
To me, I flip it around and I say that if you don't have a player worthy of being in the top 20, you have almost no chance of winning, right? Isn't that what it's telling us as well, too?
It's a complete opposite from the NFL.
Completely.
Like I sit here every year after the NFL season and I tell you that the top 2 highest paid players at every position probably didn't make the postseason because that's what we're doing in a hard cap world.
But that's the top 20 paid, not considered the top 20 best players.
Yeah, but I bet you it's not all that
Davis
far.
Would be considered top 20 best.
But Paul's saying there's a correlation. The highest paid players make the playoffs.
Yeah,
sure.
Except for LeBron.
Right. But there's a reason why they're highest paid.
Yeah, off the top of your head, without having done the research, how many players not in the top 20 highest paid would be in your top 20 best players? Not maybe 2 or 3, right?
Do you want this podcast to be 8 hours?
No, but I'm just saying, I think it's, particularly in light of what Mike said when we talk so much about the NFL, it's clearly the best players, thus usually are the highest paid, and they're the guys that continue to go the farthest in the playoffs.
It's also about cap and roster, right? You can pay 1 or 2 players a ton of money, and you're rewarded for it.
And you can win. That's all you need to win.
Because there's 5-6 players who actually play.
Yeah.
That's it. A third of your roster actually plays. In the NFL, it's just not the case.
Right.
And that we're going to see it happen, right? The Aaron Rodgers deal is going to kill Green Bay. It's going to put them into the tank eventually, right? To the point of where they're going to have to move on from it. Maybe in 2 years, maybe next year. I don't know, right? And is that going to be... There's going to be a defining
You're saying they're going
moment.
to go up in flames like Aaron Rodgers did in Game of Thrones?
Yeah, very nice. Very nice. There's going to be a defining moment, though, where...
Don't do any spoilers in the
teams
show.
Decide. He wasn't even visible.
I think that one was pretty well out there.
All right.
But isn't there going to be a defining moment in the NFL where somebody says, we just can't do this. We can't max out on anybody in this league because of the way the cap is structured and how many players we need to rely on, right? I mean, New England's been doing this for 20 years. But is there going to be like a defining... Is it going to be Aaron Rodgers' contract, Russell Wilson's contract? Kirk Cousins, I think, was perfect. We can crap on that as much as we want. It was 3 years. That's a perfect window for a quarterback to see what he can do. But I think there's going to be a moment here soon with these. Carson Wentz, right?
We've talked about this with Jared Goff.
What's it going to be? What's it going to be? Because basketball, where I do think there'll be a breaking point, because guys are about to start making $45 million a year, which is bonkers, but clearly it's beneficial, right?
Yeah.
If you want to pay Steph Curry $45 million a year, you're going to get to the NBA Finals. So to me, if you lose that translation, that correlation, which we've lost it in the NFL, we've lost it. The top 3 players, highest paid players in the league, they're nobodies in January.
Three of the teams remaining are luxury tax offenders, which means they went over the cap, right?
And over the luxury cap.
Yeah. So Golden State, Toronto, and Portland are luxury tax offenders. The Bucks are the only team that had cap room.
Yeah. A little bit left to spare.
And one of the guys they got near the end of the season is out with foot surgery.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Can you imagine where they would be right now? My goodness.
Yeah. Pau Gasol.
The note, though, I think, is that Houston somehow stayed under the luxury tax cap.
Right.
It was about $800,000 to spare,
but
they did it.
They were over when they had Anthony on the roster, right? And however they worked that, I forget how did they work that out again? They traded him to like Timbuktu or something like that.
Atlanta, was it? I think it was
like
Atlanta.
He was Atlanta for a day, though, right?
Yeah.
They made a jersey for him,
and
all this stuff.
Chicago, maybe.
I forget.
There were so many teams.
There's
What a weird end to a career for
maneuvers
him.
for Carmelo Anthony.
But they made it work. Daryl Morey made it work. He's the numbers guy over there, and he got them under. Which means, here's what it means. Number one, they don't pay the tax, obviously, but they can next year now. What you don't want to do in the NBA is you don't want to be a repeat offender of the tax because then you get walloped, right? I mean, Golden State's about to get walloped. OKC's about to get walloped because of repeat offenders. But Houston didn't this year. They didn't offend the tax cap this year. Are they going? Are they going big? Are they going to trade Clint Capella, our big man talk? Are they going to trade their big man and bring in some just burner, right, on a massive trade? They could, right? Do we think they're close, or do we think they can't? They're never going to get there.
You know what?
Where are we with Houston?
I think they're not going to get there until James Harden learns to pass the basketball. I mean, he takes so many selfish shots. Mm-hmm. Listen, and if you look at the numbers, they probably looked at everything. Hey, look at the more, when you take X amount of shots, we win because he makes. But when it came down to clutch, I mean, what opportunities were missed because he keeps taking that step back three.
Well, but you need that, right?
It's a live by the sword, die by the sword. I know you need shooters, but come on. How many times you watch the Rockets come down, it's ISO, and Harden's not going to the hole. He's stepping back with that three, and he whines that he doesn't get the foul call at times. Guy's a hell of a player, but he's a ball hog.
Yeah, but he makes a lot of them.
I know he makes a lot of them, but to me the really great players.
Sure.
Right? I mean, when did Jordan become he was a great scorer. When did he become a great player? When he learned to dish and play D, right?
Okay. I think defense is the answer. That's the buzzword.
Yeah.
Do you know a player who doesn't need to take a lot of shots but plays really good defense? I do. How about Ben Simmons, the Houston?
Sure.
Ben Simmons can guard your point guard, but he's going to stand and watch James Harden do his thing, which he's been doing in Philly anyway.
But unless he has the ball in his hands up the court, he's kind of useless on offense.
They have some boards. Yeah, that's my point. If James Harden's going to run the whole offense 95% of the time, isn't that the perfect team for Ben Simmons?
Which is why Chris Paul always confused me.
Who cares?
With that team?
Yeah, who cares?
Okay.
I want to ask you one more.
$40 million.
I want to ask you one more question about Kawhi Leonard because obviously there's a lot of buzz.
Yeah.
That guy would be great.
How amazing he's been playing and what he did in Game 7 was incredible. But clearly his future is majorly up in the air. What's your sense? I know people and NBA fans now that they're seeing the full Kawhi here are like, where's that guy going next year?
I love that he's in Toronto right now because just how we've kind of run our shows over the past 6 months. There's so many angles to take here. One of which is taxes.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Right?
One, and he's a smart ass guy, right? Kawhi Leonard. If you ever watch him talk, he's thinking 100 miles a minute in his head.
He doesn't do very much talking.
No. But when he has to, he's thinking everything's calculated, and that taxes are a part of his conversation.
This guy played in San Antonio for crying out loud.
Right,
that's
right.
Yeah, it went from nothing to
nothing
taxes.
to 50. Yeah,
to the worst state tax.
So do you want to cash in $190 million with 50% tax rates? I don't know, because that's what it is. To stay would be 5 for 190. To go would be 4 for 140 for Kawhi Leonard. But there's another element too. You mentioned how he doesn't talk. He's definitely introverted, right? He's definitely a within himself player, and probably to his credit on the court, I think, right? But isn't being up in Toronto in the middle of nowhere kind of the perfect area for him in this league right now?
Because if he goes somewhere else, he's going to be required to be the face of the franchise, and that may not fit his personality.
I mean, he was kind of able just to hang out the entire regular season. I mean, now he's in the spotlight, obviously, with the postseason, but he was kind of, for 6 months, he could kind of just hang out in Toronto.
Which is an interesting topic. We talked about this, was it 2 weeks ago or last week? We talked about cities and everything, and I've read a few stories, and I thought about it a little bit in watching that Raptors game, that Toronto, at its core, is a hockey town. Canada's a hockey country. But two things jumped out at me a little bit about what's going on in Toronto is it's been a very immigrant accepting city.
Right.
I don't know what the population numbers are, but it's a very big immigrant population in Toronto, which is much more geared to the sport of basketball than they are the hockey. And you see all those people outside the Scotiabank Arena, and you just wonder, like, how much is basketball starting to erode a little bit of the tradition of the city of Toronto, which has always been hockey. We talked about this with Boston and everything last week, and there was a really interesting article in Sports Illustrated maybe a few months ago where they talked exactly about this, that the next generation is not always growing up to be Leafs fans because that's what their parents did. They're becoming more geared up towards the Raptors because they've been around longer and they've started to have some high-level success. It's an interesting topic, isn't it?
I'm going to say the Leafs will still be number one, always be number one there.
I don't doubt you on that,
And
but
I think I don't see Kawhi staying there. I just don't.
Let me ask you this. Just kind of popped in my head.
I mean, but if they win, that could change things. It really could change things for Kawhi Leonard. Toronto's a cool city. There's no question about that, right? So
super underrated.
Yeah,
very much so.
So I mean, he could want to stay, he could go into the city, but listen, even traveling, like, so if, on off days, I mean, you got to deal with customs.
What a pain.
And all. At the airport is a pain in the butt. Mm-hmm. I just think they have a lot of things stacked
now,
against
them. Now, they're not
them.
really dealing with a lot of that,
no,
except for the customs.
But this is where the corporate community in Toronto's got to step up and make up for part of that income sponsorship-wise for him.
Okay. I just wanted to go there with the NBA. So we know his max is 5 for 190. Shouldn't there be an adjustment? Shouldn't there be a tax adjustment for whatever city you're going to sign that in?
Yeah, there should be.
Shouldn't it be 100 or 205?
I don't know. You could ever get the league owners to approve something like that.
How are we not there yet?
If I'm the Raptors, I'm arguing that.
For sure.
Right?
How are we not there yet?
Yeah, listen, I want to keep my star player, and I'm at a disadvantage because of the country's taxes, right?
Would you then have to flex the cap? Would you have to flex the cap up for Toronto?
Yeah, I think you would. Now again, Kevin, you know how this works. NHL teams based in Canada pay all their players in American dollars. That's correct, right?
And
I
NBA
didn't
too.
know that.
So they're subject
dollars.
to the Canadian dollar and the exchange rate. So when the Canadian dollar has been very low, it's been very financially impactful on Canadian-based teams. When the Canadian dollar is almost on par with the American dollar, it's a huge advantage to them.
That's why the smart Canadian, the owners that own Canadian teams, that's why the smart ones, when the dollar was even, they bought a boatload of U.S. currency.
Sure, buy the futures.
Teams
on
were doing
absolutely.
that. They were buying U.S. currency, millions in U.S. currency because it was dollar for dollar. And then when it went back down, they had U.S. money.
You mentioned endorsements.
74 cents, by the way, is the exchange. Canadian dollar equals 74 United States.
And I know guys who, Canadian, who would, buy a ton of U.S. currency too. If they had the extra dollars, they would take their savings and convert it to U.S. cash.
By the way,
for that reason.
We just taught Mike something about money and salaries and payroll that he didn't know. Kevin, high five.
Yeah, you got it.
You got to do a little work on that.
By the way, it used to be prior to the salary cap in the NHL. Prior to the salary cap, there was what they called the Canadian Assistance Program, where U.S. teams, including the small market U.S. teams, they all had to pay in to help assist the Canadian because the dollar was 50 cents.
Yeah,
right?
There have been times like in the 90s where it was really, really low.
Yeah, so they had to pay in to assist the Canadian teams. And now, under this cap system, it's like the Canadian teams are paying to support the U.S. teams because it goes by revenue generation. So Toronto and Montreal are always top. In Vancouver, they generate so much money, right? They pay into the salary cap sharing system. It's a revenue sharing system. There's certain barometers that you got to be at.
I like it.
Yes, there you go. Anyway,
you mentioned endorsements, especially with Kawhi.
Yeah.
I read an article today about Zion, obviously, because that's what everything's out there is about Zion this morning, and how it would be a ton more impactful for him to be in New York City. And I questioned it. There were no numbers. Right? The article had no numbers. It was just sort of an out there statement.
For Zion to be in Nick.
Does it matter?
where he is?
I mean, are you telling me Nike's not flying to Milwaukee to handle Giannis, or all of these sponsorships aren't on FaceTime with Giannis's people? We're not in that world anymore, right?
No, it's more impactful for the Knicks to have Zion.
Right.
To re-energize the franchise.
100%. 100%.
Yes, it's all about the Knicks.
If he's your local guy, that's a different story.
Yeah, Zion's a star no matter where he is.
Nobody's having trouble finding Paul George in Oklahoma City, right? I mean, if you want him to be your guy.
Correct.
I just think those days are done. The New York, LA, pedestals of that's where you got to be for all the entertainment and all the endorsements. There's no way,
but
right?
There are what I want to say. There are local opportunities. Right?
Like you can walk into a store and become a star?
Well, I'm just saying you could do – there's local endorsement.
To sports stores and stuff.
Yes, there's local stuff like that.
Sure. And in New York, it's really a 3-state millions, 25 million people area that you're talking about being a part of.
I'm just saying, for example, let's use hockey in Toronto. John Tavares does a I don't even know. I'm just going to use this as an example, and I'll just say
Canadian Tire sponsorship.
Oh, whatever. Yeah, a local franchise store there that you can't get in the U.S. and they pay him X amount to do so. Okay, boom, done.
Well, the article said that one of these no-name Knick players walked into a Foot Locker, was immediately recognized, and ended up signing a deal because all these fans rushed up to him and the company decided that they wanted to make him a star. You tell me that doesn't happen in other markets?
It does.
Right?
You don't think that happened to Giannis every time he goes to get a coffee in Milwaukee?
Well, the point of the article was there were reporters and all that stuff, so a buzz was created. Let me tell you, everybody's a reporter. Yeah. Everybody taking video that posts on Instagram that goes viral makes everybody famous. Yep. So you don't need to be anywhere.
Yeah, because of Instagram and social media now. I mean, Mike, you get X amount per Instagram post.
Yeah.
You're like Kim Kardashian, get $1 million per
he's an influencer.
Yes, but so you're right. It doesn't matter for Zion's marketability, but for Kawhi, I think it does, and that's what I'm saying for the Canadian Tire, for example, because of Canada, because of their country. I think it matters to have. They've got to come up with some extra dollars for Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, and
to help grow the sport there in Canada.
And a big star in Toronto is a big star in the country. That's
correct.
The difference a little bit. I mean, Kawhi can sign a sponsorship deal with a Toronto-based company that could be a national Canadian company that runs ads in Vancouver and Nova Scotia. That doesn't happen in the United States. You're not, there are national ads clearly, but there's not that translation across an entire country. Here's the one thing that's going to annoy me tonight about this NBA draft lottery is should the Knicks get him, which we all think they'll figure out every possible way for the Knicks to get Zion, there's going to be and I get it, it's New York City and but how long has it been since the Knicks have been relevant to anyone? We're going to hear all this revived basketball and the glory of the Knicks or whatever. Patrick Ewing in the 90s, the last time anybody needed to care about the Knicks. So I'm going to be annoyed by hearing all this melodramatic flowingness about Willis Reed and all that. I'm telling you, you're going to hear it tonight if they get him. You're going to hear it. It annoys me, but it's New York. I get it.
Lawn, everybody.
Right. Get up.
Didn't Larry Johnson play for the Knicks?
Yeah.
At the end of his career? Yeah. That was the last significant Knick, wasn't it?
Pretty much.
They had a decent run there with, that Allen Houston area. They could play. They just didn't win.
Okay.
They really haven't won. I mean, it's been a while.
Yeah, no, they've been
really haven't
in the whole Isaiah Thomas debacle, right?
Yeah.
And then
I'm a Mets
Phil
fan.
Jackson couldn't get it done there.
I'm a Mets fan, and I know how little they win, but man, the Knicks really don't win.
No,
they don't. They really don't. All right, finish us off with a little football tidbit here because we always want to get a little football.
Well, and then we're going to finish with horse racing. We got another
that's right. We are
race.
horse racing. All right,
sure. Football. Yes,
give us our football
the undrafted, tidbit. Right? That's this time of year. I mean, that's what I'm doing pretty much. 9 hours of my day right now, which is unbearable to some degree, but. These teams are locking in minicamp guys they want to stick around. And it used to be sort of a fly on the wall, right? Nobody really cared. It was just sort of guys getting a shot. It really matters now. I mean, in this salary cap era where teams are trying to find values absolutely everywhere, whether it's the quarterback or the punter, these guys have legitimate shots to make the roster, these undrafted free agents. They're being signed for a reason because they see some sort of competition, whether it's a special teams, whether it's replacing the left guard, whatever it's going to be. These guys are here because they're worth $495,000, and some guy in the roster right now is worth $5 million, and that's just a fact, right? They're trying to knock off somebody who's costing this team more right now, and that's a bad spot for veterans to be in. But it's a reality, and this is the number. I mean, I've got a couple of things I'll post on Twitter and stuff like that later in terms of, these UDFAs who have made a career out of it, and Jason Peters is the breadwinner right now with $105 million earned from undrafted status.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean him and Romo.
And he didn't come in the league at that position. He came as a tight end.
Yeah,
that's correct.
Converted to left tackle, and he's a Hall of Famer.
We did a specific podcast on Jason Peters.
Yeah, check that out.
It was a lot
if
of
you missed
fun.
it. That was a ton of fun
with the coach that sort of earned him all that money.
Yeah, crazy.
At least buy him a Rolex, maybe.
Here's the.
You think?
You'd think, right?
I don't know. Linemen, man.
How about a Timex? Just,
Linemen are underpaid no matter what they get. Come on.
They're underpaid?
No matter what they get, they're underpaid. Those guys go through hell. Offensive tackles?
Wait a second.
They should make as much as the quarterback.
It's a pretty simple job. You either block the guy or you don't.
This guy wants to coach NBA and play left tackle now.
No, you either block the guy or you don't.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm not saying it's easy.
It's like a true false, huh?
If anything, hold on. No, if anything, Jason Peters is an example of how they're being compensated.
Oh, my goodness.
You know what?
For like 20 years.
You know what makes me
left tackles now make $15 million in free agency, right?
More.
Okay.
You know what makes
then
me
being
realize that it's a tough job is when you see a recently retired lineman like Joe Thomas who just gets a job with the NFL Network. They look like they've lost like 70 pounds. Yeah, their biggest job of linemen these days is eating and working out.
And that part, perhaps they do put their body through more stress than any
no
other
question.
Because of what they have to do to maintain that size.
I played soccer at college, and I used to go to the cafeteria at 5:30, 6 a.m. because I had early classes. I wanted to get my start. That's all I'd see is linemen. There was a whole buffet just for them, and they were just pounding food at 5 in the morning, right, to get themselves up the calories because they were about to burn, two-a-days and stuff. They were about to burn all of that off. It was to me, it was crazy. It was like the cows going for feed. It was crazy.
There was a great story about the San Diego Chargers. He was like a lineman who had retired. It was 2 years ago.
Nick Hardwick, I believe, is his name.
Yeah, the neck injury.
Yep.
So he was on IR all season, and he showed up to retire. Press conference, and he showed up looking like you. And they're like, who? They didn't know who the writers didn't recognize him.
It's amazing.
Crazy.
And Nick Hardwick's here, and he lost was it 80 pounds?
Most of these guys, and Joe Thomas was one that you mentioned, most of them lose about 70 or go from about 310 to about 240, which is about probably what their normal natural weight is.
But he talked about his daily routine eating. And like the alarm would go off at 3 a.m. to eat a pint of Haagen-Dazs.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, he'd have to set alarms to wake up to eat it to maintain
the weight.
Like
25,000 calories a day or something crazy.
I'm telling you, watching these guys at UB eat was just like it was like a show.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pile it in. It was fun.
The one name that on your list of the active undrafted free agent all earnings team, there are some really good names and there are some really high level players. The one that jumps out, I think we've talked about him before, is the quarterback on that list, just because he's an incredibly anonymous, has started 3 games in his career, has thrown less than 100 passes. Yeah. Chase Daniel has earned $28 million as an undrafted free agent.
It's incredible. Do you know that he is ahead of Case Keenum at $25 million, who's also undrafted? Wow. Case Keenum is a starter for an entire year and a half, 2 years? 2-year starter.
Amazing.
And Chase Daniel has out-earned him as a backup. It's incredible. He's just done it right. It's a fun list. I'll post this on Twitter. Here's the point I wanted to get to. I ran some numbers. I actually had Scott Allen, our stat guru here, our numbers guru guy, run some numbers for me this morning. NFL players last year who had at least 40% of their snaps, of the team snaps, right? So players who actually played. There were 695 of them who qualified for this metric. 16.5%, over 114 of those players were undrafted. That's a lot. I mean, it was 17% last year. It's 16% this year. We're creeping up to that 20% mark. If it gets to 20, that's a number. That's a real number, right? If 20% of your players are undrafted, your actual starters or players are actually undrafted, is that a problem? I mean, in a 7-round draft every year, it seems like a problem.
I think it is. My first inclination is the weird dynamics of the draft now is once you get beyond the 5th round, there's no benefit to being a 6th or a 7th rounder. You may actually have more benefit to being an undrafted guy because you get to pick where you want to go. You get to be in a bidding war amongst teams that want you. And I think you'll tell me some of those guys get more money up front on the bonus side than the 6th or the 7th round picks. And as long as the league, and for many, many years, there was always that the reputations were on the line with draft picks. They would get more chances. They would get more reps. They would get more opportunities. The undrafted guys had to pick over the breadcrumbs. I think that's changed now.
Josh Rosen?
I think that's starting to change, where the undrafted guys are not sort of looked down their nose anymore mistakes or misses. They're just another part of the process of adding players to your roster.
Yeah, there are 6 undrafted free agents this year who locked in contracts with over $100,000 guaranteed, which is more than 35 players who were drafted this year. Yeah, I mean, half the 7th round makes less than $100,000 guaranteed. So you're talking about a good chunk of players that were deemed to be better than a 7th rounder coming out undrafted.
They get denied that wonderful opportunity of getting the phone call and seeing their name go across the screen, but in reality, they're a lot better off in a lot of cases.
For sure.
All right, let's close out with the Preakness.
Yeah.
The second leg of the Triple Crown will be this Saturday at Pimlico Raceway in Baltimore. And the Derby winner's not going to run. The one who caused all the controversy, both the jockey and the horse, are not going to run, as the jockey's been suspended. The horse is not going to run. It is more wide open than ever. The Kentucky Derby was wide open. This seems more wide open than ever because you don't have some of the top horses from the Kentucky Derby racing.
Do we know how many horses are running? I know I'm always jolted by the going from 19 or 20 or 22 horses
12.
in the Derby to sometimes 10 or 11 or in this case 12. It's the Derby is everybody shoots for the Derby, and if you don't get it, then you're like, okay, I don't need to continue moving on anymore.
This is the first time since 1996 the Derby winner will not be running the Preakness. First time.
Really?
Yes, first time since 1996. Right? Wow. I mean, that is
nice.
That's incredible right there.
Wow.
And money-wise, by the way, the Preakness Trophy is the most valuable trophy in sports.
I did know that, yeah.
Yeah, it's over $1 million.
Crazy.
Yeah, because it's the silver is created by Tiffany and Company.
Isn't there, not to drift off another topic, isn't there an ongoing controversy about Pimlico they're trying to move it away from Pimlico, or there's talk about going to another track in the area?
It's not in a great section
Pimlico,
of town.
and I don't think it's in very good shape either.
It's
right?
rained for like 150 straight days in that area,
Right.
So it's just a mess right now in D.C.
It's been rained for 150 straight days in the Northeast, right? I mean, it's brutal.
Yeah.
Let me throw 2 horses at you. And
Okay.
actually, it's the 2 horses you mentioned before the show, so good for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure sounds like, I mean, look, we talked about this on the Derby show. If it's muddy, if it's muddy and raining, it's going to be War of Will. That's the horse that probably should have won the Derby. That's the horse
Right.
that almost got its legs taken out by Maximum Security.
I'll be putting some money on War of Will.
It's going to be War of Will. Probably ends up being the favorite when it's all said and done. But the other one, it sems like the sleeper to pick is Bourbon War.
Bourbon War. It's all about war.
Sure
this
looks
year.
like it.
I thought it's always about bourbon with you.
But yeah, you're right. Well, yes. By the way, Omaha Beach though was in it, and Omaha Beach was the initial favorite,
Right.
To the Derby.
And was a late scratch. Not a late scratch, but scratched on I think Friday.
Is he going to run the Preakness?
Yeah, I believe Omaha Beach is running the Preakness.
I'm not sure on that. We got to check on that, Paul.
No, hang on. No. I
think there's
list.
talk about him maybe running the Belmont.
The Belmont.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, I'm wrong on that. I was looking at a different list.
No, yeah, I think War of Will is going to be your favorite.
I'm going to do a war box.
Well, we know how Kevin bets. Kevin bets every horse, and then he boxes every horse.
I did not bet every. I did not bet every horse. My Baffert box sucked.
Yeah, boy, he got blanked, huh?
Yeah.
Jeez.
So, but I'm going to bet the wars. I'm probably going to exacta box the wars. War of Will and Bourbon War.
I like it.
And then I'll probably just throw a couple 50 cent trifectas on long shot winning with the wars and some other ones. I like working the 50 cent trifecta because it pays out huge.
Sure,
right?
Goodness, that Derby,
right?
Life changing.
By the way, if there is a sports book in Jersey that is offering 100-to-1 odds. The max bet is $10 on the Knicks winning the lottery tonight and Tiger Woods winning the PGA Championship.
Nice.
You can parlay that?
You can. It's a parlay. The max bet is $10 for $10. Why wouldn't you?
Right.
Right. That would be a cool bet. I don't think Tiger wins. By the way, PGA
it's not looking
Championship.
good. The weather's not looking good either.
I take DJ or Brooks, and I'll take
because of the course and the style of play.
And I'm going to take Brooks Koepka is my pick because he just played in similar conditions in Dallas. Very wet golf course, and he hung in there, and he went 6 under, bogey-free in the final day and lost.
What about the guy who just won in Dallas, though, no?
Sung Kang?
Yeah. He's been coming on here these last 2 weeks.
I know. Great ball striker. But
I want to see what he does when he's playing against a few more of the top 25
Well,
guys.
here's the other thing. The golf course they just played, it was not hard to find the fairway.
Obviously. Minus 23.
Well, I'm just saying that it's a links course. Fairways are wide open, and there's no initial rough.
Right.
Mm-hmm. The rough is the fescue and stuff like that, but you're able to get out of it.
Yeah.
So,
question for you about Bethpage. I know there's some thought that it may very well be one of the hardest courses that the PGA Tour ever plays. Is that accurate?
Is black, right?
This is black. Bethpage Black,
Bethpage
which, by the
Black.
way, is a state park. Anybody can play it, right? It is open to the public, which is kind of cool.
I will say under normal conditions all the way around, yes, Bethpage Black is the most difficult golf course. If the U.S. Open gets a hold of it, they made Shinnecock the most difficult the way it played on edge.
And it depends on the wind coming off the ocean, Long Island Sound.
Yeah, but you won't get much. But Bethpage Black, it's the center of Long Island there. It's through the woods. It's an unbelievable track. It really is, and it's a hike. I mean, you go downhill on one dogleg right, and then you cross the road, which is kind of a cool thing.
I love that, yeah.
You cross the road. I don't know if you saw the video of Tiger crossing the road, and people are like, the car, they hold up the car for him. He's like, hey, thanks. It was kind of funny. But anyways, then you start going up. You go up this hill into the teeth of the golf course like right away, and it's just a completely different look. And then you come back down. It's after the par 3. Is it 14? It's either 13 or 14, and then you cross the road again, and just some majestic-looking holes.
I'm worried about Tiger physically at this course.
Yeah, it's
one of those courses you strain yourself to play, right? I mean, we've seen guys try to go long at this course, and you've almost got to be really calculated about this course.
Well, it depends how you have to be accurate.
Yeah,
because the rough is going to be thick and lush because of all the wet.
Is this an over par winner?
Ooh, no.
Okay.
Close though, right? Under 10, right?
Well, look at it this way: a good round is going to be
72,
2 to 3 under, right? But so I always look at it this way. People say, "Oh, the winning score is going to be this." Like, hey, maybe factor in the guy shoots par one day because that's how tough the course of play. So let's say 3 days at 3 under and then par, so 9 under.
All right, so 10 is probably the ceiling, right?
I would think 10's the ceiling, but soft conditions, guys can fire at flags.
By the way, parting shot here. How about Tony Romo shooting 2 70s? Back-to-back 70s out there.
He didn't shoot.
No.
High.
Oh, yeah. He didn't
high
make
70s.
the cut.
Yeah,
Right.
Didn't make the cut. Come on, though.
He had a nice eagle chip in. I saw that.
That's a heck of an effort from him.
So let me say this about Tony Romo. First of all, his putting style, I hate it. It's the hockey, Happy Gilmore putting style, but he feels he's putting better that way. But he's doing that for a reason to be more accurate on putts. He's a member at the golf course.
Yeah, it's his hometown course.
It's his home course.
Yeah.
I think he's a plus 0.3.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, his handicap. So it's not like they didn't just hand this.
No, it was best
some
case scenario
schmo,
for
right?
him. Yeah.
But they it's a sponsor's exemption. They're trying to create interest in the tournament.
Yeah.
Okay, so I get, because a lot of people criticize this thing. I think it's good for golf for this reason. I think it draws interest that you have other professional athletes who are into golf. It'll draw more fans to golf, right? There are a lot of people with Cowboys jerseys out there on the golf course. Also, everybody out there thinks they're good at golf is not as good as Tony Romo. And look what Tony Romo did against the best in the world.
I was going to say that wasn't a circus act.
No, it was not.
He's a legitimate, end of the round.
He finished
player.
ahead of 4 PGA Tour winners.
Incredible.
He beat 4 PGA Tour winners.
His mid game looked to be right there. I mean, his up and down work was really good.
His technique, even despite chipping in for eagle, his chipping technique needs some work.
Yeah.
Right? Needs some work, and he needs a little more distance.
Did you follow him at all or no?
I did not.
No, okay.
No. He needs a little bit more distance.
Speaking of which, to sort of round this back in a form.
I followed Brooks Koepka for 4 rounds.
I actually kind of hope Steph Curry retires early so that we can see him on the PGA Tour. There's a whole other career for him. He's a legitimate player. He is a legitimate golf player. I think has a chance to be better than Tony Romo right now.
But he'd have to retire early.
Sure.
Because to do it later in life.
Sure.
Because there's plenty of guys you think they can, I'm going to retire and I'll make the Champions Tour.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Oh, the seniors?
I was just talking to Paul Stankowski, who's a coworker, and he's won twice in the PGA Tour. He's eligible, but he has to go to Q school, and there's going to be 100 and something for 6 spots. This is a 2-time tour winner. 6 spots.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like his chances, Steph Curry.
Yeah, but, because the amount of work they'll have to put in, it's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible how much work you got to put on the PGA Tour day in and day out. Ball striking, fitness,
consistency,
the putting, to know your stock numbers. I don't know if you saw the stock numbers, by the way, from Brooks Koepka. All right, we're going to end this real quick, guys. We're a show about numbers. Brooks Koepka's stock numbers.
Explain what that is, Kevin.
Yeah, stock numbers means, all right, I know what my distances are hitting a club.
Okay.
So, for example, if you know your 7-iron, everybody says, my 7-iron goes 160. Well, these guys have 3 numbers. They have a 3/4 shot number, they have a full swing, and then they have max. Like, I'm really going after it here. We'll stick with the 7-iron. Brooks Koepka, my max 7-iron for me is about 168. Max, right? I'll average it out. If it's
coming out of your shoes.
Yes,
that's
I'm going after it 168. 160 is what I standardize it. If I want a 3/4, I'll go 150. Koepka, 3/4, 186. His full swing's 194, and max is 200. 200 on a 7-iron.
That's
on
crazy.
A 7-iron. I'm
well,
like, you got to be kidding me.
He looks like he should be on one of our NFL linebacker lists. So
on hole 2, on Saturday, hole 2, the flag was 186. He hit a 3/4 7 and almost aced it.
Nice, crazy.
I'm like, that is sick.
Nice.
I'd have to hit a full 5 for that. All right. Anyways, that's our show. Want to remind you. Morgan Stanley Global Sports and Entertainment. They handle a lot of golfers, by the way, Morgan Stanley does. They empower Justin Rose. You'll see Morgan Stanley on his cap this week, one of their fine golfers. They empower professional athletes and entertainers with the knowledge they need to make informed decisions about their finances and wealth. Learn more, visit morganstanley.com/GSE. Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, LLC, member SIPC. For the founder of SpotTrack.com, Mike Giannetti and Paul Peck, I'm Kevin Sylvester. We'll talk to you next time.